In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another episode of Simple Marketing Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Persayo. Persayo is your go-to agency for marketing strategy, web design, consulting, and much more. They have just relaunched their web services and they're offering an incredible deal. Right now, you can get a complimentary website design. Yep, totally free. Just give them your info and they'll design a site for you. And if you love it, you can buy it. If not, no worries. You can simply walk away. Head over to www.persyo.com. That is PERSYO.com to get your complimentary website design today. My guest today is Colin Johnson. Welcome, Colin.
Great to be here.
Great to see you. How's your day so far?
It's pretty good. This is definitely the highlight, though.
Fantastic. Looking forward to a great conversation with you where we share with people about your expertise and what we're doing today. The topic is solopreneurs and startups, overcoming common challenges to thrive in business. Let me do the proper introduction for Colin, and we're going to dive into a very interesting conversation. Before you get us started, if you're watching or listening, please make sure you like, share, and comment on the post of the show. If you have any questions, put it in the comments, and we'll do our best to cover it. Colin Johnson is a seasoned executive and business coach with a 20-year track record of empowering managers, executives, and entrepreneurs to excel professionally and personally. His bespoke coaching programs are designed to enhance leadership effectiveness, boost personal efficiency and productivity, foster high-performance workplace cultures, optimize cash flow and revenue growth, and develop strategic succession and exit plans. He specializes in working with his clients to uncover their authentic leadership style and core values, ensuring their vision is actionable and aligned with their long-term goals. Welcome again, Colin.
Thank you.
Colin, where about are you?
Where am I based?
Yes, just for so that for the audience.
Happy to be based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Fantastic. We're both in the same city, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So let's get into it. Colin, what is your story?
Well, I don't think it's a really exciting story. But what I'll say is that there's been several turning points along the road. I have been an executive in companies. I've led a number of teams, mostly in the transportation and logistics industries. And I've had that horrible sinking feeling of being stuck, of not having anyone that would listen to me. Sometimes it was the people above me. Sometimes it was the people below me. And there was this sense through many of my junctures in my career that there was something more for me, that I hadn't hit the ceiling of my potential. I had the pleasure of having a couple of really good mentors along the way. And that was even before I understood what a coach was. Eventually, I got into a position where I felt like I had done everything I possibly could do for that company. It was an operation in Calgary that worked with Amazon deliveries. When that job finished, it became really clear to me that I wanted to go and work with people like me, people who were kind of stuck, people who hadn't realized their potential and felt like they could make a difference. So literally, when I was being escorted out of that position, I basically said, I'm going to be a coach. And I enrolled in Royal Roads University, their executive coaching program. And in the 3 years since I've done that, I have focused on small businesses, emerging leaders, team development, leadership development. And lately, which might be the topic for today, I've been focusing on solopreneurs, startups, and not-for-profit organizations.
Love it. So great story. Very interesting. So, what do you do these days, and who do you serve? I know you kind of alluded to that. What do you do, and who do you serve?
Well, basically, I work with people on their most complicated problems. They could be executives, they could be small business owners, they could be solopreneurs, they could be not for profits. So it's really just being curious with people and finding out what's keeping them up at night. What combination of issues like time, team, money, and future are the most important to them? Where are they struggling the most?
Very interesting. So, why do you then focus and specialize in solopreneurs, startups, and non for profits?
Well, that's a maybe a bit of a good story. Um, my focus on solopreneurs and startups in particular, maybe even not for profits, is a deep recognition of the critical need they play in our society and economy. I think what we learned when we went through COVID was that small businesses are indispensable. They're required. They're something that our province needs, our city needs, and I think it just if there's such a reliance on big companies and big box stores, there's something missing. So that was the first thing that I think piqued my interest. Um, I tend to have a little bit of a defiant nature, and we can talk about that later if you want to. Early on in my coaching career, I had mentors that said, stay away from solopreneurs, stay away from startups. Some of them might have been a little bit neutral on not for profits, but it was kind of this thing like, don't find, don't look for clients that can't pay you. And my defiant nature said, watch me. I didn't buy into that. I thought, you know what? These people have incredibly complicated problems. They're they're starting out something. They're by themselves. It's lonely. They need support. They need community. They need help. So that kind of became my mission. It was like, who has the biggest problems? Well, a lot of times it's solopreneurs, startups, not for profits.
Interesting. And then, what are some of the common challenges that they face, and how do you help them?
It's a great question. Um, the first thing I think about is lack of support. Whether it's somebody who's an executive director for a not for profit, and I've spoken to a few of them who fit into this category quite recently, whether it's a solopreneur, whether it's somebody in a startup that's just getting to know their market, they're sending um, MVPs out to their customer base and struggling. So it's just that sense of providing support, kind of some backbone, a structure. The best part about being a coach is really learning how to listen aggressively, be curious, find out what is really going on. What are the obstacles, the barriers to success, so to speak? So it's the first thing that comes to mind, like I said, is just a lack of support, a lack of community, a lack of having the resources and the abilities to um, get the help that they need.
For sure, for sure. Um, and then, so you provide that support to them by, I guess, providing the coaching support and the community that they need. And then, what do you mean by community there, by the way?
That's a great question too. Um, One of the best ways that I found to work with many coaching clients of different shapes and sizes would be form a community, build a coaching group, have people get together in person or on Zoom and create that sense of peer-to-peer accountability. So the beauty of that is you I can I can work with a group of people. They can experience professional business coaching. The price is a little bit lower because it's a group. um, they get the ability to hang out with peers that are going through the same problems. They get that support, they get friendship. And when you add in that dimension, sorry, of peer-to-peer accountability, it that's where the magic happens. And it starts to basically become a safe place for them to experiment, to learn, to grow, and to develop into the best businesses they can be. Um, it- Another thing on that note, um, I call them mastermind groups. So it's not just me standing on a pedestal saying do this, do that. There's no advice. It's about growth. It's about helping each other solve our most complicated problems. The great thing that happens in mastermind groups is something happens in our brain when we start focusing in on other people's problems, our own issues start to become clearer, more solvable. And we actually start to be able to make those leaps of growth in our
Yeah.
businesses and in our personal lives.
Yeah, I love it. I think in a group environment, one, you feel like because most business owners and leaders are what I call lonely creatures, where um, they are kind of buried in their own world, and they try to do everything on their own. They try to figure everything out on their own, especially men entrepreneurs. Women are pretty good at getting help and support, but men are not good at it. But once they get into that, I think, community place where they see other men sharing and be like, oh my God, I thought I was the only crazy person that has a problem in the world. Turns out almost everyone else has or has had that problem before. And then, oh, they open up and start sharing, gaining support. That's like one of the greatest feelings I think you could have when it comes to solving problems and running your business. What's your experience with that?
Well, I think very similar to what you just said, and I really liked how you said that. It's it's create a true community is one that is supportive. It's safe. It provides opportunities for growth. There's a kind of an intimacy that's in it too, so that people share their financials, people share their biggest problems with their employees, um, their struggles with work-life balance. And when you get in a group like this, you have that opportunity to really grow. um, that's kind of what I've been experiencing. And back to some of the people that we're talking about, uh, solopreneurs and startups, and even not for profit associations are concerned more than anything else with getting and keeping clients, uh, establishing um, revenue generation, growing their business, growing their membership in the case of associations. So when you're working with people who are like-minded in that sense and have similar problems, it
Hmm.
becomes a tremendous environment to build up build up the resources of the group and kind of create a group strength to be able to get people to help them cross the barriers they need to cross.
You got it. Um, how is leadership development different between a solopreneur, a non-for-profit, and the startups? Are there any differences there between these?
Yes and no. um, I work with executives, and I work with solopreneurs. I work with people in the trades. I work with people in not-for-profit organizations. And I take them down a path, typically starts with clarity, the middle part is growth, and the big overarching part of the structure is leadership. So the cool thing is that the CEO of a big company has probably a lot more in common with a solopreneur than she would realize or he would realize. There's a lot of challenges when you have a team, or whether you don't have a team, whether you have a big company or a small company, whether you have a large market share, whether you're struggling to get customers. Leadership starts with self leadership. It starts with clarifying your mission, your values, your core values, the things you're good at, your strengths, your growth edges. So that's kind of the place that we start. Um, I use something called a DISC assessment.
Hmm.
Um, DISC assessment is a tool. It's not a personality test. It's like a personality test on steroids. It starts the conversation about workplace behavior and communication styles. So leaders, we start with where they're at, what they're really good at doing, what their superpowers are, and where they struggle. And then we build out that conversation. We look at how they can grow. We look at what their chief challenges are. And then we take them down a leadership journey.
Interesting. I've done a disc assessment, I think, and then I think back, I did it probably 10 years ago or maybe more, and I was high D and high I when I did that disc. And it was interesting too. These personality assessments, or is that what what it's called? Like a personality assessment?
Yeah, I like to think of it as it's a workplace profile assessment.
Right.
Personality, people get kind of a little bit messed up around that term. Um, some people believe that personality is permanent. I, on the other hand, I believe that it can be modified, it can be mitigated, and especially in the workplace, in a business, we want people to say, you know what, this is an area that I'm struggling with, but there's hope. I can change. I can become a better leader. I can grow. Most, and to your point, Mustafa, most leaders and organizations typically are high D and high I. The challenges come when that's their workplace style of communicating behavior, when they have people who don't align that way, when they are more conscientious, that's the C, or S, steadiness. Um, it's finding that way to break through in terms of communication and be able to make sure that their leadership, it meshes, it becomes effective, and they get to where they need to go. They accomplish their goals.
Love it. So how does I know I've done the disc assessment, but I've kind of looked into it back in the day. How is it used? How do you use it? Or how is it used in workplace for communication or hiring or improvements and the rest of it?
It's a great question. And I realize I didn't really answer one of your earlier questions, so I might try to tie the two of them together.
Sure.
So I I use the disc as a conversation starter. So I'm working with a company. They work in public research. There's two CEOs, and they have a team of very diverse workplace profiles. And the two of them themselves are very different. So what we've been able to do is start that conversation about what are the gaps in our leadership? Where do we want our business to go? How are we relating currently to our employees? And how do we grow and develop our people? What kind of performance development plans do we get them to use? So the disc profile, and specifically a team report, shows everybody where they're aligned and where they're not aligned, and where they could grow, and what potentials and capacities they could build themselves into. So it's a great starter, especially for leaders. Um, Leaders, it's helpful if they see the big picture. The ones that really want to grow and develop are very humble, but at the same time, they don't want to be they don't want to finish last. They don't want to be unsuccessful. So it's helping them grow into their challenges, to shine with their superpowers, and to really become the best leaders that they possibly could be. And in a not-for-profit situation, sometimes it's engaging your board of directors. It's figuring out a way to engage your volunteers. You don't have the option of being profit driven, so you need to be mission driven and vision driven, values driven. So it's taking different leadership styles and adapting to different leadership situations.
Got it. Could we dig into maybe some of the stories about works you've done with clients over the years?
Yeah. Um,
Um,
Sorry, go ahead.
let me ask specific questions about different maybe scenarios. Is there any, do you have any disc stories about customers that you work with? Maybe they had a challenge and then you used disc to figure out what was going on and come up with a solution by any chance?
Yes. Um, Possibly a little bit of a humorous one. I was working with somebody who is the founder and owner of a business, and she had a very, very high D. She had almost next to no I, which is influence, very low S in steadiness, and very high in C. So C is compliance, conscientiousness, meaning data driven, incredibly analytical, incredibly specific, and structured in terms of what she wanted from her people and from the organization. The high in D is something that you see in a lot of businesses, a very dominant, direct, almost forceful, aggressive leader. So without that mitigating influence of I and S, she was incredibly hard on her employees. It was a revolving door. People kept coming and then leaving. And when we eventually figured out the problem, it was because of her high D and high C, nobody ever met her expectations. Nobody could ever possibly do the job as good as she could. And of course, you know what the next part of the story is. That became the defining part of that business, and the defining part of her leadership style. Sorry, is in because she couldn't find anyone to do the job the way she wanted to. She would do it herself, and it created burnout issues. It created employee issues, partnership issues, and eventually it affects all aspects of the business. So there, we were really just focusing on, okay, let's define the way you want things done, and let's find people that have the capacity, but let's try to find ways to teach them, be patient with them, really get them to understand why it's important for things to be done that certain way. And at the same time, with her, getting her to recognize that fact and to start, instead of getting triggered to want to let that employee go or have a dramatic, loud conversation, it's more like, okay, let's sit down, let's ask some questions, let's really figure out what's going on here, and really figure out what we need to do to get to the next level to get this relationship where it needs to be.
Love it. Love it. That is amazing. Did she have to change anything in her approach and her behavior to address the high D, high C situation?
Absolutely. Um, on the C side, the compliance, we could really lean into um, process and creating systems. We used videotapes of her being able to go through various parts of her organization and explain in detail what she wanted. And at the same time, we used other people in the organization to help out with training, just because this particular CEO was incredibly hard on people by nature. And the other thing we did was we tried to remove her as much as possible from her employees, so that other people would become involved with them. They would report through to them, and we would make sure that the CEO would be watching and overseeing, but not directly connected to the people. So yeah, it's a team effort, it's a team game, and it involves trying to be the best leader you can, but also recognizing what you bring to the table, what your natural capacities are.
Love it. Any other interesting recent stories about challenges your customers that have been facing and what you've been dealing with?
Um, Solopreneurs are so interesting to me. Um, there's someone that I've been working with who is in the health and wellness space, and a real professional, very good at what she does. Um, as a solopreneur, and when you think about starting up, there was this tendency to wait for everything to be perfect before she went out and tried to get clients. And I faced that with myself. And I'm not really a high C, but when I started my business, there was this idea that I had to have everything in a row. The dominoes had to be perfect. The ducks had to be in a row. And I was afraid to go and get clients. I was afraid to go out and be a coach until that was perfect. So in this case, because I understood that, and because, probably a lot of people that are listening to this call have experienced this as well, it's really saying and working with your client to find ways to start your business. There's no better time to start your business than right now. Do you need to have a great website? No. Do you need to have a complete marketing plan? No. Do you have to spend dollars on marketing? No. The important thing is to start. and start somewhere. So it was really just kind of defining that and kind of going through things step by step by step, determining a brand, but not getting um, too perfectionistic about it. So ideally, clients like that, I want to be able to pass on to someone like you, Mustafa, in 1 or 2 years when they understand their brand, and when they understand their ideal client, when they really understand who they're marketing towards. So it's just really helping people get over those early roadblocks to their success.
For sure, for sure. I know you mentioned that, yeah, you said, do you need a big shiny website? No. Do you need a completed marketing plan? No. Do you need a whole bunch of shiny objects? No. So the answer is no. What do they need to get going? What should they be focused on?
That's a great question. Um, Simplistically, what is a business other than getting and keeping clients? So, regardless of what you do, regardless of what kind of business you're in, it's really boiling things down to simple things. You call your business simple marketing, and you and I have talked, and I love what you do. I love your websites. I love the work that you do with your clients.
Appreciate it.
People, they need to be able to understand what they do better than other people, or what they do at least the same as other people, who they're who they're guiding. We've talked before about the story brand marketing. The most important part of anyone's story is not the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is a guide for heroes or ideal clients. So it's identifying who that client is, and it's starting. And it's not being so perfectionistic that you're worried about failure. A coach told me once that failure is just not part of the journey. Failure is how you get there. It's action oriented. It's pushing the envelope. It's going out there. And if you're not good at something, doing it and doing it and doing it again. So it's it's working with people to get over those early roadblocks. Marketing is absolutely critical, but how far can you go on a bootstrap budget when you're first starting out? Do you need to spend $20,000 on a website? Do you need to have a marketing budget of $5,000 a month? Or do you need to just go to networking events and find people that you can talk to, and people that you can get feedback on, and people that you can start working with and learn what it is about you and your business and your product or service that is absolutely amazing, and that would lead to referrals to other people. So those are kind of things that I like to do. I don't avoid marketing. I like to bootstrap it until they get to a point where we can turn them over to someone like you and say, okay, now let's get serious. We've understood our brand. We know who our target audience is. We know what we're doing. We know how to market. I always believe that if your branding and your marketing is done, sales is so easy because it just becomes a natural outgrowth of that process. But sales is hard when you don't know your brand and you don't know your clients.
For sure. To be honest, and I know this is up kind of forward, but we actually do help clients with understanding their target market, the branding, and all that. If they know all of that, they don't really need us. So, as a market, you help them with their plan and understanding everything, so they could move forward. If anything, we help them simplify things, right?
Yeah, as your name suggests, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Sometimes they have like they set up complex processes and they do a million different things and nothing is working. So we're like, let's simplify everything and focus on one thing. How's that for for uh you know focusing on something? Um Very interesting. Very interesting. What are some of the specific client types or industries that you have worked with over the years?
Construction,
Mm-hmm.
trades, software, and tech. Even though I'm not a techie myself, as you found out just minutes before our call. Um, some of the people that we've talked about are people in the health and wellness space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find that trades are interesting. Um, Trade associations are interesting. Um, Teams that, or let's say companies that have emerging leaders in their organization is also something that I find very fascinating, and I've had a chance to work with a few companies on that. So it's really thinking about how do you develop succession plans? How do you take that next generation, so to speak, of leaders and help them become the best that they can be, and basically carry on for the incumbents at a given point in time.
For
I'm
sure.
not sure if that's a good answer to the question.
For sure. For sure. And to your earlier point about people not needing um, shiny things and focusing on clients, that's eh, eh, I think we're on the same page. I mean, to me, if someone cannot get clients without a website, I don't think a website is going to help them at all. If they cannot get clients without running a $5,000 a month ad budget, they probably cannot get many customers, even if they run ads. I mean, even if you bring it to them, they probably cannot convert and turn them into customers. So when people are starting out, when they come to us, they're like, "Hey, we need a big website and we need ad budget, this and that," and they don't have any customers. That's a big red flag for us.
Yeah.
We're like, get a customer on your own, and then let's talk.
Well, and sometimes that's a daunting process for, again, some of the people that we're talking about in this category. Solopreneurs and startups, typically not big tech startups, but these people have limited resources. They have limited budgets. And let's face it, I know this, by the way, nobody has a budget for a coach, especially a business coach. So it's more about, what do you need help with? What are those early obstacles that get in the way? And we talked about a lot of different things on the, there's revenue generation, there's lead generation, there's, you know, coming up with a referral strategy campaign, an email drip campaign. There's so many little things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. But people, and you know this, Mustafa, people typically get hung up by mindset. They get hung up about imposter syndrome. They forget who who they wanted to be, or what they were trying to do when they first started the business, when they first opened the doors and said, "Hey world, I'm here. This is what I do." It's for me, what I do is I help push them through that process. Sometimes it's not a push, it's a nudge. Sometimes it's just guiding. Sometimes it's just being alongside them, because I've been through that part. I'm going through that part. It's it's guiding them through that early stage so that they can really figure out what they want to do, why they want to do it. I always say, figure out what you want to do and why you want to do it. Stifle the how. The how, we can work on that. The how will become clearer when you really figure out what you want to do and why you want to do it. So it's guiding them through that process and making sure that they don't have setbacks, making sure that if they have setbacks, there's somebody there to help them and support them and guide them and coach them.
Very interesting. Um, Colin, I know you help companies with their mission and their values and stuff. Am I wrong about that?
No, I do.
Okay, and then so what is a mission statement for a company, and what are the values, and how do they help a company?
Great question. Um, it's funny. I was in a coaching session, I'm going to say, in the last couple of days, and we discussed that um, with a leadership team. And the question that we kept coming back to is, who's the mission for? Who's the vision for? There's a lot of people that will put fancy mission statements and vision statements on their website. So one wonders, do they want those for their customers? And customers are important, companies are important, leadership teams are important, and employees are important. So my first question on that would be, what do you want? What do you want for your mission? Is this something to drive you forward? If you're a solopreneur and you've got a mission and a vision and core values, that makes sense. It's going to I'm sure that's going to be part of your website. It's going to be part of your marketing. It's going to be part of your service for your ideal clients. But when you get a bit bigger, what is your mission for? Is it so your employees understand how to take good care of clients and customers? Is it for people to see what differentiates you between you and your competitor? That would be the first place I would start.
Hmm. Love it. And then, so the people that don't have a mission statement and values, their values defined, how is that affecting them, hurting them, or how is that affecting them, not having their mission and values defined?
That's an excellent question. So I'm going to throw an idea out to you, and I want you to be honest with me and tell me if this holds water. Um, if you don't understand your mission, and in particular your core values,
Hmm.
then I'm not sure you're going to be able to understand the mission and the core values of your clients. So I think the best business that happens is when you, as a marketing service provider, attract clients that align with your mission, with your ability to lead them and guide them in this area. And when it comes right down to it, you guys have similar values. There's an alignment. There's like a meshing that takes place, and that's where the magic happens, I believe. So if you're not clear on your mission and your core values, I'm wondering if you're going to be able to be clear on the people that you're meant to do business with, the people that you're meant to guide and take care of and service.
Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, my mission has helped me give me direction on where I'm going with my business and what to do and what not to do. So being clear on where exactly I'm going helps me plan to get there. Because if I don't know where I'm going, getting there is impossible to begin with. It's just I don't know where I'm going. And then, like you said, exactly like you said, if my values are defined, then finding people with similar values would become a lot easier, and doing business becomes much more what I would describe as frictionless,
Yeah,
where
great
I'm
word.
working with people that are aligned with me. Like for example, family is a big value for me, probably my number one value. I actually naturally end up attracting family people and do a lot of business with family people. But if I know that value, and if I portray it on my website and portray it on my marketing material, then people that visit my website, they take a look and be like, huh, this guy's a family guy. I like him. Let me give him a call. And it may or may not be even conscious or subconscious. By the way, if you're watching or listening, you don't have values projected on your sites, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Because I know, Colin, I know it's about you, but do you mind if I share something real quick while we're
Sure.
talking about this? A big mistake that people make about their sites is they make it very dry and corporate-y, you know, and then a big mistake is they don't make it personal, like the values and the personal mission, and then there's the company mission. And then when you do that, the website becomes more personal. Then it becomes easier for you to connect with the audience, to click to book a call and have a conversation and the rest of it. So what I'm trying to say is having the mission and the values is very important, and it helps. Actually, another thing that I've noticed is attracting what you might call it, team members based on your values becomes a lot easier. So a lot of value in defining your values with a coach like yourself.
And to your point, and I'm not sure if the people that are listening in today have seen Mustafa's website. It's beautiful. It checks so many boxes. I'm not just saying that because I'm a guest today. I'm really not. But everything that he just said in that last statement, that last minute or so, you see it on his website. You see the value of his family. You see how he appreciates the outdoors. He doesn't have to say it. He doesn't have to list his core values. The website comes through, and that's, in my opinion, the definition of a great website. And that's one thing. Now, one other thing that's really interesting is, again, I think we're completely aligned on this. if you know your values and you understand that your your customers, your clients are going to share a lot of those values, and they're going to kind of come together. And like I said, that's where the magic happens. It's then possible for you to be able to lead, develop, and culture your team to take care of those clients. I love how a guy like Richard Branson kind of puts this all together and says something like, if you treat your employees better than you treat your customers, you can have your cake and eat it too. And that's a terrible paraphrase, but that's how I look at it. Is Richard Branson talks about that alignment between your values, your customers' values, and your employees' values. And if those are aligned, you have the ability to build a great business.
Absolutely. And I think, you know how we talked about earlier, we talked about that CEO or business owner that had high D, high C disc assessment. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that the values were not aligned between her team, and that might have been part of why there was problems.
Yeah, well said. That, and in particular, it's when she was hiring people, when she was looking for people, she wasn't necessarily looking for people that were high enough on some of those dimensions. So, for example, what we focused on hiring as people with as much conscientiousness, compliance, the C category as we could, because we knew that was such a valuable thing to this CEO. Um, so that was a key area, and also was for all of her staff to sort of help them understand why this is so important to her. It wasn't because she was um, a dictator. It wasn't because she was a megalomaniac. It was because this was really important to the business. And when we really tapped into why that was the case, we started to we engaged her people in her story, which is for her business to be successful, she needed to be that good in certain areas of the company. So that helped them understand why she was so hard on them in that regard. So it was like, again, that ability to help each other understand each other's values and what's important.
Fantastic. And then, so how do you help companies or CEOs or business owners find their values and set their mission? What's that process like?
I think it's like I said earlier, it's it's
Is that
taking
sorry for interruption. Is that something you help companies or business owners with to begin with?
yeah, I do. I'm not sure if I would call that um, I'm not sure I would say I do that professionally, but um, I think so because the mission it's like what I talked about earlier. It's like when you first start your business, what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to be? How do you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors? Be them, be it real or ones that you don't know. And most importantly, what do you really want with this company that you own? What do you want with this job? What do you want with this, leading this association or from being a leader? So I'd love to go back to the beginning and really clarify, to use that word, to what was your original mission? What was your original vision? And as you're getting going in your business, what what have you what have you come up along the way? What's holding you back? Um, what still scares you? And what do you need help overcoming and moving on to the next phase, whether it's leadership, business? Um, so I like the idea of really focusing in on what you're trying to do. Again, using a DISC assessment, it tells us a lot. It tells us a lot about your superpowers. It tells us a lot about where you struggle, and it tells us a lot about your intrinsic motivations, if you want to say that too. So it's kind of using that as a starting point, and then saying, okay, where does this journey go? Where do you want to take your business? Where do you want to take this team that you're leading? Where do you want to take your ability to lead?
Fantastic. Love it, love it. Colin, I know you were sharing a valuable gift with our audience, a gift of a 1 hour strategic business review. Could you please tell us about it?
Yeah, if you go to my Focal Point coaching website, the first thing that pops up is get your business growth score. And this is a very short, very fun little assessment about what's going on in your business and where you see the challenges. If you fill that out, I get a copy, and I would welcome anyone to send me a message on LinkedIn, or I think it'll be on my website. To let's get together. Let's get together for Zoom. We'll do something I call a strategic business review, and I will help you find uh, extra revenue, profitability, and we'll do a deep dive into your business and try to figure out if there's some quick wins that we can work on together. And it's
Love
free.
it.
I don't assume anything. There's no obligation. But if it's a fun thing, then maybe we'll have a second conversation.
Love it. Gang, to get uh, some outside eyes on your business, on yourself, what you're doing, what you're not doing, and get an assessment and a review of your business to see where you're at what needs to be done to improve and get things better. Go to colinjohnson.com, uh, colinjohnson.focalpointcoaching.com. Sorry. So Colin, COLINJOHNSON focalpointcoaching.com to claim your free 1 hour strategic session. You could do it on Zoom or in person. I'm guessing if you're in Calgary, Alberta, or the surrounding area, you could probably set it up to be in person. If you're out of town, then Zoom is the way to go. And Colin, can I ask some personal questions?
Certainly.
Love it. Beauty, what is a new thing that you have tried recently? As big as going to the moon, as small as a delicious cup of coffee.
Something new that I've tried. I love running. I I love long distance running, um, but I'm trying not to do that anymore. It hurts my joints. I'm a little bit older now. I'm running high intensity intervals, and I'm running hills, and I'm doing shorter. And what I'm finding is it's hard, and but the results are amazing. And the best part is because it's shorter distances, I can actually go harder more times during a week on my workouts. So that's the first thing that came to mind. I hope that's
Yeah,
cool.
100%.
Um,
Do you put on braces or sleeves on your knees when you do that?
I don't. Have you found that helpful?
So one thing that I'm doing, I'm a big skier and I'm a hiker, and we almost hike every weekend. And so I've entertained the thought of putting on sleeves and braces for a preventative measure to provide support for my knee, especially when I'm skiing or coming descending on a mountain to reduce the pressure on my knees as a preventative measure. I would think that might help if you have knee issues.
That's a great feedback.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because one of my personal goals is to ski and hike well past 90. So I need quite a few decades out of my knees. So I'm trying things to prevent hurting my knees.
That's good. I have a funny feeling I'm going to get to 90 before you. I
You know,
hope to get to 90 before you.
I want, yeah, I want to stay young. That's one of my goals. Anyway, Colin, give me two of your favorite books, please.
Wow. Okay. Um, wow. I love this question. I usually like
Some
to
that
say it.
some that made a massive difference in your life or business, or made a
Yeah.
big impact.
I'm going to go with one that I was talking about today with somebody actually. It's a book by Captain Michael Abrashoff. He's a naval commander. The book is called "It's My Ship," and it's all about leadership techniques that Captain Mike learned in the U.S. Navy. I'm not much of a military guy, but I love this book. It was the first book that I ever read that I could call a leadership book in terms of management techniques, and it was my mentor's gift to me many years ago. So it's called "It's My Ship" by Captain Michael Abrashoff. It's a great listen for people who just want to listen. It's all about establishing employee engagement. It's all about changing your leadership style. There's some things in there that have absolutely blown my mind, and I feel like I need very soon to write some stuff down about this on LinkedIn. The next one that I would say, a go-to book is still Patrick Lenciani's Five Dysfunctions of a Team. I do some work with clients on that, and I flip it around a bit, because rather than calling it a dysfunction, I've kind of played with his tremendous work and try to talk about what are the five most important functions of a team. So building trust, not avoiding and fearing conflict, commitment, learning what peer-to-peer accountability is like on a team, and being attached to specific team-driven outcomes. So those two books come to mind, and I could probably give you guys a list of about 20 more. I love books.
Love it. Some people think successful people and business coaches don't have any problems or issues. Is that the case?
I'm sure everybody there believes me when I say that I'm absolutely perfect and I've never had a problem with my business in my life.
What's like
No,
one challenge
no.
that maybe you are dealing with these days?
I've struggled. I've struggled with imposter syndrome. I've struggled with mindset. I've struggled with, I think, almost everything that you can struggle with. I feel that some ways. I think I talked about this with you when we got together that one time. I feel like I've been pretty low. I've hit rock bottom a few times. So I'll say that I stick my hand up for help now. I'm not afraid to get help. I'm not afraid to admit weakness or vulnerability. And I believe that the vulnerability, and there's a curious relationship between courage and vulnerability. Brene Brown talks about this a lot, that it takes an act of vulnerability before courage, and it takes an act of courage before vulnerability. So it's a beautiful relationship. So it's acknowledging that you're vulnerable, but it's finding that courage. And like I said earlier, I believe in this one phrase, that failure isn't just part of the journey, it's how you get there. So we get to determine what our failures mean, or even the use of that word. I don't particularly like it, so I've tried to take it out of my vocabulary. But you've heard people talk about fail forward. I think that's from Marshall Goldsmith, failing better. But for me, it's been picking myself up after I've fallen flat on my face and saying that's just part of the journey. That's the learning. It's growth, putting myself in uncomfortable situations and just being myself, growing, developing, helping people, being curious. Oh, Mustafa, we can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Uh-oh.
Colin, can
How's
you hear
that?
me?
I can
Can
hear
you
you
hear
now.
me?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. I don't know what happened there. What's one advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
I've had a lot. I've had a lot of coaching, and I've had a lot of tremendous help.
What's a big one that
What's the big
stands out
one?
for you?
don't let your future, sorry, don't let your past define your future. So sometimes it's easier to think about that as something 5 or 10 years ago, but I think about it as yesterday. Every day, I don't need to let my past define me. I can be future focused. I can be optimistic. Um, and I'll throw one more in there too. And this comes from The Art of Possibility, the book, The Art of Possibility. It's all invented, anyways. It's all invented. Everything that goes on in our head is invented. So why not invent something amazing? Why not invent something positive? Sometimes our imagination works against us. So why not just flip the script? Invent something amazing.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Colin, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom without any limits with our audience. Gang, if you're watching or listening, if you need help or if you think you need help or if you're not sure, still reach out to Colin. Go to colinjohnson.focalpointcoaching.com. Book your free 1 hour consultation session with him, and or you can find him also on LinkedIn. Search for Colin Johnson. He's in Calgary, Alberta. Reach out, have a quick chat, and see if it's a good fit, see if it's a good match, and then I'm sure you'll get value out of that conversation alone. And it's not. He's being actually very generous with his time as well. It's a 1 hour call. It's not a 5, 10, 15 minute type of call where it's not a quick sales call. So, Colin, is there anything that you maybe wanted to chat about that we didn't get a chance to, or I didn't ask you?
I want to make sure that people know about what you do as well. I know it's your podcast, but like I said, if you want to see a beautiful website, and not just beautiful, but beautiful in a very effective way, check out what Mustafa has done. And I
Appreciate
love
it.
he's got a new book coming out on simple marketing, and like I'm becoming a fan, and I'm hoping that we can continue our collaboration down the road.
100%. Likewise. Likewise. Gang, if you're watching or listening, please make sure to like and share the show with someone that could benefit from this topic and this conversation. Forward it to a friend and maybe tag them in a comment on social or just send them the link so they can watch and get value from Colin. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching or listening on our podcast or any channel, please write a review about your experience here. And we look forward to seeing you on the next show. My name is Mustafa Hosseini, the host for Simple Marketing Podcast, and we'll see you in our next session. Thank you and have a great day.